It's the perfect autistic conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look at each other, sit next to each other.
Oh, God. Welcome, my friend. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and I'm all about helping you increase your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, I'd be delighted if you'd hit that subscribe button and join my amazing YouTube community. Now, on this very special two-part video series, I'm joined by my neurotypical wife, Renee. So on part one of this two-part video, we're going to share our experiences as a couple who have been together for over 10 years, explore and distill some advice and experiences on the questions we got from our YouTube community regarding relationship-specific questions. In part two, we'll cover communication and also parenting and extended family. So here we go, part one on neurodiverse relationships featuring my neurotypical wife, Renee. Ta-da! Okay, so here's the first one. Autistic people can sometimes think that another autistic person is the only kind of person that can connect with them, right? So autistic person needs an autistic person to truly connect. As a neurotypical woman, so not autistic woman, me being an autistic guy, were there things that attracted you? A lot of people asked, you think an autistic person is attractive? What? This is a weird question, so we can move on really quick. But
I actually think I was attracted to some of your quirks to start with. So your personality and some of the funny things that you do that I just thought were you. And it turns out a lot of them are probably because they were related to you being autistic. What I'm trying to say is, so I think the first time we met each other, I was really attracted to your personality in the way that you were really humorous and the way that you sang certain things as a way of answering questions, or that it was probably echolalia, but the way you would joke around with me and around
that's true.
Questions and answers, which I found really attractive and funny.
So the quirky personality.
Definitely.
It's a bit like the Amy Schumer kind of thing where she talks about how her partner...
Actually, we talk about that I think about examples of like when I'm with friends at work or doing something else, and people will be like telling you about their interaction with their husband about what they're wearing, and I say, well, I always know that I'm going to get the absolute 100% honest answer whenever I talk to you or Conan about what I'm wearing or if I ask a question. So I definitely value that honesty around that side of things. Sometimes it can come across a bit harsh, but other times...
Well, what do you reckon about these kind of neurodiverse relationships? Because I guess the point is autistic people might think they're only suited, or they're mostly suited to other autistic people, and we're clearly at what you would class as a neurodiverse relationship. So because there are two different types of brains here, what do you think about that? There are a lot of people that think this shouldn't work, or this really doesn't work, or... I
don't actually think it's something that should come into consideration. I think you either get along with somebody and they support you and love you and you have a connection. I don't actually think that should make any difference.
All right, next question. I'd like to know, how does your wife experience resentment towards the divergence, and how does she deal with it? Okay, this is a good one. What kind of resentments do you kind of experience or feel? And I think people want to know, how do you deal with them?
So I reckon some of the resentment around certain things has really only come to the fore when we've had kids and there's been increased demands on you. So I reckon that it hasn't actually been that big of a deal in our relationship prior to having our second kid. And I think some of the areas, to be absolutely brutally honest, would have to be around the alone time. That's absolutely one thing that I resent.
So just unpack that, just so people understand what they mean.
So I guess the core principle about this is that as part of what you need to remain regulated, you need alone time that is away from the kids, away from me, away from all the other stimulants in the environment. And I guess it's probably a jealousy and a resentment thing, in that I would love that too. I'd love to be able to go out to the garden or go to the beach or do something that's just for for me as well, not because I need to regulate, but because everyone needs time to themselves. But in our current life, that really doesn't happen because I go to work 5 days a week, and then after hours when I come home, then there's kids stuff to do. And so on the weekends when you might need that time, and I respect that and say you need to go have some time by yourself or whatever, there isn't that reciprocal availability of time for me to do that, because I can't just say you take the kids for the next 2 hours, I'm going to the beach to do my own thing. And I guess that's part of a relationship too, right? Like, it's give and take.
And I think for people watching who are autistic as well, I mean, from my point of view, I can say that we know that everyone deserves alone time. Everyone needs alone time and all that kind of stuff. And it actually, my stress levels now, but you almost resent yourself. As an autistic person, because you feel like a failure and you're struggling and failing and just horrible, and it's selfish and crap, and it's really hard to navigate. And it's one thing to say the difference is one has a medically diagnosed disability, the other doesn't, and therefore they can somehow make up for it better than the other one. But I don't think that helps in relationships more than it's factual. Like, obviously there's some points where I actually need alone time so I don't melt down in front of people. But it's also factual to understand that if you are going to have a relationship, you're going to be required to help both. So I think as an autistic person, I would fail in that respect.
I don't think it's failing.
The things that you would resent, I think the things that you resent about me, the neurodivergent side of me, are probably the things that I can't actually make happen successfully a lot.
But just going back to this alone time, so I think it's all about the person who isn't neurodivergent resetting what their expectations are. So
yeah, it's a good.
So
point.
It's about saying, well, actually, I do get alone time, but it just comes in different forms to what it used to. So that might be I take a longer shower for 20 minutes because it actually is 20 minutes of me getting time by myself that doesn't have the kids or everyone else.
And that's true. That's definitely something that you can do, you can achieve. And I know that you enjoy doing. Spend longer in the toilet. I don't know.
Totally. Or take a bit longer to get to the supermarket. Or
drive a long way home or whatever. Yeah.
Different ways to getting a couple 100%. Of extra more minutes of time.
This is one you've talked about a lot. And this is a question about how was our relationship before diagnosis. And the reason why I bring it up that you've talked about it a lot is we've talked about it a lot based on the premise that since we got married and had kids, a lot has changed. I find it complicated. But from your point of view, because they're interested in what you think.
I think before...
It was very different, right?
Totally. And before I was more educated and tried to use your experience and your learning to educate myself more around neurodivergence, I would have just said, it's like you've just become autistic or you've got more autistic as the time's gone on. But actually isn't that. It's that their demands have got to the point where they've impacted on your ability to regulate yourself.
My capacities can't meet them.
Correct, yeah. So I think if I look back to when we first started, your ability to be spontaneous, your ability to do things that were new were there because you had the capacity to do it.
Nothing was taking it up.
Correct. And then if I look at things like we would travel, but I always knew that you had anxiety issues, and so we would make allowances for how you would get anxious about traveling, or if you were doing something at work that was making you anxious, you wouldn't sleep very well. And so all of those things, I just accepted that they were who you were, and I signed up to that. So, and I willingly, knowingly married you knowing that you had that going on.
Just not a diagnosis. That's the thing. People are interested in that. I mean, we met and then got married and even had kids or kid prior to me having a diagnosis. Now that, for a lot of people, that would be a pretty scary thing. It's like you've signed up to all these big things before you knew something, which obviously I can't take the blame for, but so that's a really interesting thing for people.
It is, but you know what, the flip side goes the same, like, and not comparing, so I'm not saying that celiac disease is the same in any shape or form, but
it's worse. Far worse.
No, I'm not saying that. But I didn't get diagnosed with celiac till after we were married as well, and I know that might sound stupid as an example, but
no, it's not stupid.
Actually changed our lives. We couldn't just go out and eat anywhere because I had the diet restrictions, and so
I like pasta and bread and pizza.
Yeah. So I think it goes both ways. Like there's things in life that you get dealt certain diagnoses along the way, and you either love and respect the person or it's conditional and you don't. And then if it's conditional and you don't love them for who they are, then these little hiccups of celiac diagnosis or a diagnosis that explains why you were so anxious in those circumstances, like that doesn't mean jack. Like it doesn't mean jack because you're still the same person that I married.
And hopefully the diagnosis, for people that are wondering, hopefully that, because there are a lot of couples, I think, that are going through a late diagnosis situation and that may have thought they were both neurotypical and they're not. The diagnosis can, in a way, help because at least it gives you insight and understanding and a roadmap to navigate it. So I think it actually is helpful.
Definitely. And I think for me, knowing the why behind you acting certain ways in social situations or you becoming overwhelmed in certain situations, I think that's helpful. And so instead of being resentful about not doing certain social things, it was more of an understanding. It's been a positive thing.
So as a relationship between a neurotypical and an autistic person, sometimes the way things happen are very different and the way you find connections are very different. And this is definitely a question that a lot of people wanted to know. How do we connect? How do you see are the main ways we connect? And I guess, how can others in a similar situation to us kind of create deeper connections?
So I think we have some common things that we both love. I think so that common interest is definitely a beneficial way to connect. I think on top of that, we both appreciate using humour and often really dark humour as a way of coping with really adverse situations. And I think if I look back in the time since we've known each other, we've had so many massive things happen to us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those adversities have actually brought us closer and strengthened our connection. But the base of our connection was formed on the fact that we both love a laugh. We both enjoy certain things like traveling and outdoors and beaching, all of those things. And so I think it was that was the basis of the connection. And also, like, I find you really attractive. So I think that also helps with the connection, is the physical connection as well as the deep emotional connection.
Meltdowns, burnouts. See, people are obsessed about talking about these kind of things. So neurotypical partners are really interested. Things like, how can neurotypical partners help autistic people in times of meltdowns, shutdowns, burnout, general struggles? So the first there's a few questions in this, as in I've pasted in a lot of people's comments. Do I have meltdowns? Well, I can answer that, yes. You don't grow out of autism, all the things about it.
I opt out of meltdowns, please.
How does your wife handle those times? Do you need recovery afterwards, as in both of us? And how do we recover? Okay, so that's the first person asking. So for starters, how do you handle meltdowns, and do you feel like you need recovery after meltdowns?
So I reckon the first thing is to recognise what the warning signs are of when someone's starting to become agitated and then are starting to have that disconnect of their frontal lobes before they go into a full-blown meltdown. So I know you well, and I know
the rumblings, you know the signs.
Absolutely. So I know when you start rubbing your hair in a certain way, or when you start moving your legs or your body in a certain way, or when you start using echolalia more, or when you start singing more, then I know that things are starting to overwhelm you. And so it's at that point that I usually will say, Orion, you need to go upstairs, or Orion, you need to go and have time by yourself. And so it's a direct, Orion, you need to do this. It's not a, I think you should. It's not, I think, there's no conversation about what's going on. It's usually, you need to go have time by yourself. And that's the circuit breaker before it gets to the meltdown. If you have had a meltdown, which I don't reckon there's been a full-blown meltdown for a while, and usually it's circulating around something to do with our kids and Conan being completely dysregulated and melting down as well. And usually in those circumstances, all you can do is keep everyone safe, because you can't actually stop it. It's just got to burn itself out and you just have to keep everyone safe, keep everyone as calm that are around you, that when you're having a meltdown. And then, of course, everyone needs recovery afterwards. I mean, I'm not superhuman. You need time by yourself afterwards. I usually just take a minute.
It's more important to identify the rumblings than to worry much about a catchphrase, because in the end, the best way to avert that is just to get them out of wherever they are, the space wherever they are.
Or if we're having a conversation and I see that you're becoming increasingly distressed or agitated, and I see some of your warning signs, then I'll just say, well, let's stop talking about this. We'll talk about it another time. Or maybe you just need more time to think about it, and then let's talk about it. So it's about being respectful and noticing that the other person is struggling with whatever's going on, and giving them the time they need to process it, to do whatever they need, and then have a conversation again.
So the cumulative effect of meltdowns and shutdowns and these kind of challenges can lead to burnout, like an autistic burnout. From your point of view, people are really interested how a neurotypical partner handles, understands, deals with someone going through this.
So I reckon until I understood what it was, I approached it in the wrong way. So I used to just get resentful of you, get angry at you. Why aren't you putting on the washing? Why aren't you doing this? You've been at home. I've been doing this. Why haven't you done that? Blah, blah, blah. But at that time, if I use that as an example, you were in a burnout. And so you actually couldn't do any of that stuff. And so it was about me resetting my expectations of what you could and couldn't achieve at that time, and understanding that you don't see things the same way that I do. So you might not look at something around the house and say that it needs to be done. So then we would talk about it, and we'd have a good conversation about it. And I'd be like, well, how do you want me to tell you? And you'd be like, well, you just need to tell me what you want me to do. And so it was about direct conversation and direct instructions during that time when you were burned out.
We've talked about alone time, special interests and those kind of things. People want to know how you navigate the need for like alone time and special interest time with the demands of family life.
I reckon it's about expectations again. You have time during the week that you do focus on your side of work and your passions and things. And on the weekends, most of the time is family time.
Yeah.
So I think it's about having an understanding of what you need and what time you need to do that in. And then if something's going to change in our routine, then we try to talk about it with enough time for you to come to terms with it and process it, because it's going to interrupt your interest. So that's probably how I deal with it, is knowing that you need processing time, and knowing that if it's going to change, then there needs to be some other time allowed for you to make up for that. Otherwise, you're going to get distressed that you haven't had time to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's, in the broad relationship perspective, everyone has things they really want to do and are really interested in. It's that yours is far more intense than mine is. And so it's just about compromise and give and take.
But I also think it's really important for autistic people to understand, if you're going to be in a relationship or you're going to have kids, like me, you are going to have to sacrifice certain periods of time. So, for example, I have no expectations nor plans to record or make any content on weekends. I might check comments and emails, but that's because they would just snowball. But I do not create content on the weekends. Expectations continue. This is about social stuff between partners. Expectations around social interactions. So communication, emotions, affection, other general relationship staples. What are your expectations for me or in a relationship?
So I think this is one area that we actually do pretty good as a couple.
You've just given up on all the...
Yeah, because I don't do anything. No, because I think what you and I both talk openly about neurodivergence, and we both talk openly about our family situation. And so when we are in a social situation, we choose who we socialize with. And those people that we socialize know us and accept us for who we are as a family. And if they don't, well, they can bugger off and not be our friends, because they're not worth wasting time and energy. And you shouldn't have to mask around people. People should accept you for who you are. And if you have to mask and we can't be our authentic selves around them, warts and all, then we probably shouldn't be friends with them. I think probably the trickier one is family interactions, so broader, extended
Next
family.
video, part 2, don't talk, save it. All right. Hey, and there's one last thing on this, by the way. People want to know, how do you deal with the disappointment? The disappointment of you wanted to go to that thing and dance with the friends and I didn't, or we go to a thing and I'm awkward in the corner and you're really wanting to socialize, then I guess people are interested in the tension that could create, or the disappointment that could create of you wanting more in social interactions and situations. What are your thoughts on that kind of the disappointment and the tension of missing out on the kind of social stuff that you're able to do and want to do?
So I think that's similar to what we just talked about, right? So it's about picking what we go to. So if I have something I really want to go to, like a birthday party, and there's no chance that you want to go to it, we'll talk and I'll say, well, can I maybe go for 2 or 3 hours and then come back and get back into the usual family routine? Is that the compromise that we can come up with? Because I think if both partners can't compromise and do what they want to do to some degree, then that's when you absolutely will erode your relationship, because you will be resentful, disappointed, and just hate the situation because you're stopping me from doing all the things I want to do. But it's actually about working together and working out what is
compromise,
possible and what isn't possible. And so I think once you move past that and you look at all the other great things that come from our relationship and how much support you give me in so many other ways, then I don't think it matters. And also because I am privileged to be able to work 5 days a week. And so and it sounds ridiculous, but that is absolutely a social thing for me. So I work in a workplace. I interact with a lot of people. And so I get my cup filled up from my social interactions in my workplace as well. So I don't have this need for hanging out with people after work or on the weekends.
That goes to the next question, which I guess we can just move on from, because I was talking about, do you feel your social needs are met? And what strategies do you have? So I think what the point there is maybe that, because I wouldn't class us as socializing, right? Because we're a partnership. Your social needs are met through things like, in the workplace and those types of things. And they're your strategies really. I guess maybe your strategy is you might, as opposed to other people, look for social engagement and interaction in the workplace. Definitely. Right? Where others might just keep their head down. So that's probably something you've done. So that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm reading a dear something letter. I'm a neurotypical husband with an autistic wife. Would love to see how your dynamic as a couple has developed. Does the dynamic change? Has it changed for us? And does it change in a good or a bad way? Or do you think maybe it's more, you just think it does?
So I reckon probably when you were first diagnosed, there was a slight change.
It's a big readjustment, by the way. Yeah, it's a big readjustment.
And the confounding issue is that Conan was also diagnosed at the same time. So we had 2 new diagnoses to come to terms with. Not that we didn't think that was the case with him anyway. You've always been different. I don't think it's changed that dramatically throughout. Well, what do you think? Do you think the dynamics changed?
No, I don't think our dynamics changed at all. Because I think, like you say, the being autistic is something you were born with. So who you are was always the same. The only difference is maybe the dynamic changes with regards to you mask less, but it's not because you think you were doing it purposely. Sometimes, it's kind of like getting to know yourself again. But I think the dynamic might change only on the premise that at least you feel more comfortable in your own skin with each other and you have more of an understanding. So what about coming to agreements? People want to know how we come to agreements, how we discuss things, if you already know the answer, let's hear it.
How we discuss things. Well, sometimes it's quite loudly, right? And people might...
That's the next question.
Sorry.
No. Describe your fight style. Okay. Well, let's merge these 2 questions, okay? So we're talking about how we come to agreements, how we discuss things. And then also let's talk about how we navigate emotionally charged issues and disagreements, okay? So let's talk about both. So, because I think it's interesting, people want to know about the fight style, and what's interesting for me is, I'll just say this and let you go. As an autistic person, I never think we're having an argument. We're only ever having a conversation. If we're having an argument, I'll know, right? But I never. To me, it's a conversation, and my wife will always think it's an argument, and it's not an argument; it's a conversation. And in fact, I put it to you that the only way to have a meaningful conversation that isn't small talk or shooting the breeze or chit chat is through the offending or being offended. Now, just rewind that and play it again. It'll get through eventually. Trust me. I'm telling you. I think without offense, there is no meaningful conversations. Anyway, so that means that offending people isn't an argument. It's a meaningful conversation. Anyway.
So I don't agree.
Well, whatever Homo sapien.
I reckon most of the time it just is talking about the same thing several times is how we come to an agreement about it. And sometimes it's more processing time, or it's me being less tired and grumpy and then being able to listen better. So I think it's just time and repeating the same conversation.
And you recap it. We recap it at the end, though, and saying, okay, so we've agreed you're going to do this and I'm going to do that, or whatever. So, it's really important to end on that.
And the fight style, so you don't think we argue, but if... I think we raise our voices sometimes is probably the fight style.
But see, this is the thing about tone. See, I don't think I'm yelling or raising my voice. That's the problem. Autistic people can be unaware of their tone. So I can come across aggressive or loud when I think when I'm just being passionate. If I'm just passionate about something, I come across aggressive and loud. Yeah. Now, of course, that's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable way to talk to people. But I know that because I'm not. I'm being passionate, right? But it comes across. So pretty much the way it goes.
And I reckon the other key thing that's kept us in a good relationship is that we will never go to bed at night having not resolved whatever we were having a conversation about. So if we argue, I reckon there's probably one time in our entire relationship that I can remember not resolving it before we go to bed. And we try to do it in, if we get really passionate around a conversation, we'll try to stop all the other distractions. So pause the TV. If I'm working on my computer, stop working on the computer, and show respect to each other that we're both listening and that we're both trying to work through whatever it is.
Have you considered the possibility of you being neurodivergent?
Well, I reckon you've brought that up about 50,000 times.
But I do it as a joke. It's like the classic, autistic radar, right? Because this question's based on they just don't get it. How is it possible for different brain wiring to actually have a successful relationship? How do you have the happy ever after with all the differences? That's what people are asking this question for. Or have you considered you may feel similarities or similar traits?
I definitely have some obsessive compulsive tendencies, but I definitely don't meet diagnostic criteria. And so I like structure and I like routine because of that. And so you needing structure and routine, and same with our kids needing that, I like that. So, and I like planning. So I think my type of personality is being organised, planning ahead, but I also like being spontaneous. So I definitely think that absolutely plays to our strengths, is that I like that style of running day-to-day life.
I mean, either way works for you. That's fine. But it is interesting.
So maybe they just haven't met the right person. We've been married 10 years tomorrow.
At the time of recording, someone's watching this in the year 2050.
It's all just about talking in relationship, accepting the person for who they are. The diagnosis shouldn't mean anything to whether you connect to somebody or don't connect to somebody.
Yeah. By the way, I got married when I was 15, just so you know, okay? 10 years ago. How do we negotiate things like intimacy and your needs and balance and stuff?
Oh,
so the way we negotiate it, it's very simple. I just lay there like a dead body, and if she taps me on the shoulder, negotiation's over. The other option is I tap her on the shoulder, and she says, "Go away," and negotiation's over. Okay. So anything else you want to add to that discussion about negotiating intimacy and your needs?
It works by me understanding what your body language is showing, and same vice versa.
So
right?
So this is a good point. That's not possible a lot of times, and I don't pick it up on a lot of times. So how do you find, what's the best way to convey your needs, relationship needs?
So I just have to be blatantly obvious. So just say what you want, and don't expect the other person to know what you're thinking or what you do and don't want. Just say what you want and have the understanding in your relationship that you're going to be honest with each other. And so if one person likes one thing and the other person doesn't, then you should just say it.
And I think, honestly, one of the successes of our relationship compared to all the others is the fact that you are honest and upfront. Last one, this is about disclosure. And I want to finish on this because this is a really interesting point. Okay, so if you're married and you get a diagnosis, it seems strange your partner wouldn't find out. So let's assume that you're not married. Okay, so let's say you're dating someone and you have a diagnosis, or you're dating someone and you get diagnosed. What are your thoughts on disclosure?
I reckon that's a personal decision for the person who's disclosing.
You're not the one that has to disclose, you're the one that has to receive. So I guess the point is, would you want to know? Do you want to know? How would you feel if I knew before we met and we dated, got married, had kids, and then after we had 2 kids, I said, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you I'm autistic?
I would have said, yeah, I know.
Okay. But seriously though, you would have been, I would have thought you'd be, would you divorce someone for that?
No, what the hell? That would go against everything I just said, that I married you for who you are.
Okay.
So okay. I reckon the thing is here that if your relationship is shaky and you think the other person has such a limited understanding of neurodivergence that would be the tipping point, then your relationship's probably screwed to start with.
Okay, what about if you're in a dating area? I mean, some people are in the dating phase where they just want to date and have fun.
Then who cares?
So then
do
don't
it
bother.
If you don't do it if you
What's the point?
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, people, I always think this is really interesting, this whole idea, because it's different in the workplace, but in relationships, I always thought relationships are based on attraction. So if someone's attracted to you, there's reasons why they are. Whatever the reasons are, it's because of you. They're attracted to you. So the diagnosis or the disclosure is kind of irrelevant. It's like, well, yeah, that's a label for it, but I knew this is what you were, So anyway, it's a very interesting idea. Coming up on the next video, we're going to talk about communication and also parenting and family stuff. So thank you so much for joining me in your own house.
No worries.
I'm so grateful to have my neurotypical wife, Renee, join me on the YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed it too. Let her know in the comments if you did. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to share it with your family and friends so we reach more people, I'd very much be grateful for that. And in the meantime, thanks for your support. We'll talk soon.